Hey, for those of you that like to give me shit for having the name Slasher Talk, but not strictly talking slasher movies all the time, well, today's your day because this episode is entirely about slashers. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Slasher Talk Podcast. I hope you've had a great week. Right now, currently, if you're listening to this on Friday, I am driving to Omaha, Nebraska. So that's what I'm doing right now. I am driving to Omaha, Nebraska to go to my best friend Sean's, his band Devil in the Details. They are having their last show. Their last one. They've been a band for years. I've been not only because I've been best friends with Sean for like 20 years now, which is insane. That's not the only reason why I liked this band. I think that their band was fantastic and should have been a lot larger in the metalcore space than they actually got, but they achieved so much. They have great tunes. I love these guys. I love this band, and the fact that it's coming to an end is just very sad, but I'm driving to Omaha to celebrate their last show with them, be there for them one last time. Devil in the Details. I can't wait. It's going to be a fantastic time. So that's what I'm up to right now, but guys, it has been an insane weekend, also beginning of the week. So much has happened. I've seen a good bit of movies, one of which sparked the idea for this podcast episode. So I won't talk about that movie in specific in this like update section because I'll save it for when I get to it in the slasher part of this episode. But there's one bit of insane exciting news that I get to share that I was honestly just announced this afternoon of me currently recording. It was just announced and I went in to go record this episode. So you might have already seen the news. I don't know, but if you don't really pay attention to Instagram, I'm about to say some insane wild shit that I never thought I was going to say in my life. Once in a lifetime opportunity. I am officially going to be in Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey 3. Yep, let that sink in. That's a thing that I just said. That's true. Jesus Christ. Yes, I am officially a featured extra in Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey 3. I've been waiting for a few weeks on the filming dates and details to see if I could make it work. I just got the dates last Friday, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm a bit nervous on making this work, because I've just been traveling so much. I go out of town this weekend, and then I come back, and I go to Overlook Film Festival, and then literally a week and a half later, I fly out to the UK to be on set and film for 3 days for Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 3. But it's once in a lifetime opportunity. That's something that you just don't say no to, right? So I think it's insane that I drug Sean to the movie theater on when Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey, the original one, came out. It was in theaters for maybe like 24, 48 hours, something like that. I bought tickets and I remember watching that in a theater. And it might not be the best movie, like real fucking talk. It's not great, right? But I've always loved taking something from my childhood, taking something innocent and putting a dark horror twist. And that really I loved that concept. And I grew up watching Winnie the Pooh, Piglet, all that shit, right? So I just loved it for that. I thought all the practical effects were great. And what this team have done with the films and expanded the universe and Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2, night and day. man, just like the production value. I thought Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2 was a legit fun time at the theater. Bambi, Peter Pan, Pinocchio's coming out. Like this, every step that this team has taken with, I think it's technically the Twisted Childhood universe now, but at one point it was called the Pooniverse. What this universe has done with each film, I think is great. I have so much fun with it, and the little bit of the script that I have read for Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 3, it's insane. It is insane, and I think it's even more insane to say that I'm gonna be a part of that. So when I got the invite, I'm not gonna lie, I was like, "Ooh, can I make this happen?" Yes. 100%, no matter what I have and it's just something that you make time and you put that shit on credit cards or whatever you have to do to make it happen. Like, this is a once in a lifetime thing, and I knew if I said no when the trailer came out or I was in the theater watching this movie, because I will go to the theater and I'm gonna watch Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 3, you bet your ass. If I was sitting in the theater and my scene came up, I'd be like, "Dog, that could have been you." So, in the next dude, literally, I leave in 26 days to fly out to the UK to go film Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 3. That's insane. So, um, starting this channel, sad as hell, depressed. To say that I started this channel to essentially save myself. Like, this channel in so many ways saved me, and I will say that over and over. So just to think back on, like, why I started this channel, where it started and all that, and to say that in 2 years' time, because I have this channel and I've been posting essentially every single day and building this platform and things, I got asked, and I'm gonna be in Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 3. Some people might not think that's cool. I think that's fucking cool, man. So, if I'm in one official horror movie the rest of my life, I am so proud to say that I will be a part of Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 3. Hell yeah, brother. So, that's some news. Anyway, past that, what have I watched this week? I don't remember if I talked about Pretty Lethal last week. I think I might have, but I watched Pretty Lethal. Look, it's not fantastic, pretty basic across the board, but I had a lot of fun. I think that movie's getting drug, and I didn't think it was that bad. I thought it was a good time. I didn't really go into it expecting a whole hell of a lot though. So I watched uh Alpha, Julia Ducarno's new film. She did Titan? I don't know, whichever one, and then she did Raw. I went to the theaters and watched that with Gigi. Um, Loved it, man. It's not as crazy body horror, insane like Raw and Titan, but, like, man, is that shit bleak. It's bleak, it's very emotional. I thought it was a super layered film, and there were definitely some body horror moments that I was like, "Ooh, I do not like that." I thought the body horror was very creative, and I don't wanna, like, spoil the movie, but it makes total sense within the context of the film, what it's based on, like, what it's trying to say in terms of, like, addiction and, like, where that road takes you and, all that kinda shit. There's so many layers to that movie, but, I would say it's more of a drama than it is a horror. Drama with some body horror elements, but it's extremely bleak. I personally loved it, but I see why people are kinda giving it mixed reviews. I'm gonna skip the next one. I also watched The Deep Dark. It's like a cross between The Descent and The Mummy with Brendan Fraser. That one, yes. And it's a foreign film. It's about these miners that get this extra bonus for taking this like scientist down into their, I don't know, like mining area. I don't like their mining site or whatever. And they have to like explode this portion so this guy can get all these samples and things. And like where it goes is very Descent Mummy vibes. Nowhere near as like tense or claustrophobic or dread filled or scary as the Descent, but it's hard not to make the comparison there. Thought it was a pretty decent watch. Again, all practical, which I thought was great. But there are some limitations with the monster creature that shows up eventually because it is practical, which I will always champion practical over CGI, but because of the design of the monster and it was practical, I think there was just some limitations. So each time you see the monster, it's kind of like the same vibe happening. But again, it was all practical. So like, yes, sir. Anyway, that's some updates on what I've been watching. Insane once in a lifetime opportunity updates. I still, I'm in this chat with the director and some other extras. I don't want to tell other people's news for them, but just know that there are other people involved as well. I can't wait to make this trip and go be a part of this. That's insane, man. I'll be talking about that for a long fucking time. So this episode, I wanted to just kind of go over the coolest slashers. I'm not talking like movies or who has the better franchise, or I'm not going to rank the slashers or anything like that. But I watched a movie called Dead by Dawn, and it's a new, I believe it's Polish. It's a Polish slasher film that's heavily inspired by giallo films. This one in particular was heavily inspired by Dario Argento's opera. There's a play going on, and there's a scene where like they totally rip off the whole like needles being taped underneath the eyelid. You know, it's like it is just straight opera. But I think it was like not necessarily a rip. It was a rip. I think it was like paying homage to, because this is the colors, a lot of the cinematography, the set pieces and things, it's very giallo. And the slasher wore like black gloves, all that shit, right? But I bring up this concept of like the coolest slashers because this film, what it lacked in like story and character development and all that kind of shit, the slasher, the killer in this film was quite possibly the coolest killer that I have seen in years. Years. The mask was made of all these different eyes, literal eyeballs. Probably 30 different eyeballs or whatever. Dude, every time this motherfucker was on screen, I was like, that's a creepy and just a great visual. And I was like, dude, that is literally one of the coolest killers that I have seen in years. And it got me thinking, like, slasher films, there are so many slasher films. And I'm sure even after I go through what I like, the list that I came up with the top of my head this morning, I'm sure that some of you will like go through and say, oh, you missed this. Yes, I'm not going to be able to talk about every single one. But when I think of who are the coolest slashers, what would people think of? What would they say? I asked on my Instagram stories, and a lot of you said the same ones over and over. I will point those out, but there's a couple I was like, yes, thank you. Some recognition for these like underrated slashers. So I'm going to go through. If I were to put 100 people in a room and I say, who, when it comes to slashers, when it comes to the killers in slasher films, who are the coolest? I'm not talking like rankings of their movies, best franchises, who has more kills. We can get into all that in a future episode. I'm just strictly who just fucking rules as a slasher. So let's start out with the iconic four that, and this was pretty much the majority, but a lot of the people that responded to my story on IG, these four got brought up a ton, which obviously so, right? Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees, Freddy Krueger, and Leatherface, which is totally respectable. And I 100% understand why those four are always going to get brought up. They were kind of like the founding fathers, correct? Right? Especially there is a big debate, and I know that we've talked about this on a previous podcast, but like Leatherface is arguably, there's this like argument to be had that the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre isn't necessarily a slasher movie. It was a proto slasher. The fact that all the kids basically trespassed on on the family's property, and Leatherface was just protecting his house against trespassers. He wasn't necessarily hunting these kids down for something that happened in the past, or where like there's like some of these like slasher rules, right? And like there's a debate to be made that Leatherface isn't quite, but I think it's safe to say that even if you want to debate the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I think to this point in 2026, Leatherface is absolutely without a doubt an iconic slasher. Correct? Is that wrong? I don't think that's wrong. Because I feel like if you ask somebody, name four slashers, Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees, Freddy Krueger, Leatherface. I'm not going to lie, out of the four, I'm always going to lean Freddy. I think Freddy out of those four is just my personal favorite. I mean, Freddy Krueger for me was the first slasher that I watched that had a personality. It wasn't just a mute guy walking around with a mask and a knife, taking teenagers that are smoking and having sex and doing drugs or not where they're supposed to be or whatever. Like Nightmare on Elm Street and Freddy Krueger was the first one that like there was a character, like there was a personality behind who was doing the slashing. And I instantly fell in love with Freddy. So I will always be out of those four. And I think that they are all iconic and they all deserve to be in the top four, 100%. But for me, when you're talking about coolest slashers, Freddy's got his hat, his striped sweater, he's got the glove, his one-liners alone, and there's a debate there of like Dream Warriors is my personal favorite outside of New Nightmare. I love New Nightmare as well, but and there's another conversation to be had too of like when Freddy originally came out, he was so serious and he was meant to be like serious and scary and all that, and Dream Warriors came out and they started to kind of lean into these like comedic and funny, and some people didn't really like that personality change. For me, not growing up as the movies were coming out, Dream Warriors on my initial watch of the entire franchise was the one that really, the first one that stuck out to me as I love this movie. And yes, the tone isn't quite the same as the first two, but for me, Dream Warriors was like Freddy became Freddy. And maybe that's because like I kind of already like knew Freddy to be this witty, jokey, brutal killer. And I didn't really get that until the third one when I initially went to go like watch the franchise as like from my like the first time watching it. So maybe that's just like because I did not grow up with the franchise as it was coming out, I have that opinion. But for me, out of the four, Freddy is my personal favorite. Especially when it comes down to like who's the coolest. I think out of those iconic four, for me, Freddy takes the cake there. Okay, cool. So you sit there and you say Michael, Freddy, Jason, Leatherface. Who's next? I think a lot of people say Chucky. Chucky, I think, again, because he has a personality. And I love Brad Dourif's voice and how what he brought to the character of Chucky. His laugh, again, his one-liners, his comebacks. I think a lot of people look at Chucky as in he's like a 2.5-foot doll that you can just kick or whatever. Yeah, I understand that, but just like I think the character of Chucky stands out amongst those five, again, because he talks and he has a personality. It's not like you can it's really a character that you can attach to. And I'm not saying that you can't attach to like Michael Jason or Leatherface or whatever. But I think it's harder because those slashers, they don't speak and they don't have a personality. I guess you can argue that, but I think Freddy and Chucky very, very much stand out from those five because there is a personality and a voice when you think about them, right? If you don't say Chucky, I would say that you probably say Ghostface. And to me, that would be probably overall, you put 100 people in a room and you say, name 10 slashers. I think every single list is going to say Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees, Freddy Krueger, Leatherface, Ghostface, and Chucky. I truly think that. They are iconic. And I know some people, I'll bring this up here. I know because he is not on my list. And so let's just get this out of the way right now. Pinhead from Hellraiser, in my opinion, I don't necessarily count him as a slasher. Is he an iconic horror villain? Abso-fucking-lutely. But when I think of slashers, I don't think Pinhead meets the criteria of slasher. I think he's super cool and he's iconic. Arguably, out of Michael, Jason, Freddy, Leatherface, Chucky, and Ghostface, Pinhead has the coolest look. I think his design is incredible. But when it comes to like slashers, I don't necessarily count Pinhead. I don't count Hellraiser as a slasher franchise. Is that wrong? Am I wrong? Do I need to rethink my entire channel and my entire life? Because when I was getting my slasher sleeve, my tattoo artist was like, "What about Pinhead?" And I just don't count him as a slasher. That could be wrong. I just personally don't look at Pinhead as a slasher. Let me know in the comments or whatever. Send me a DM, yell at me, whatever. If that's wrong, why? Because I just don't see it. And maybe I could be 100% wrong. Okay, moving on from what I think would probably be the most named. These were in the Instagram story responses. A mix of those 6 were said over and over and over. So I think those 6 are they have very much just ascended pop culture. There's a reason why the 6 of them are icons. In my opinion, this next one, which got named several times, you could argue maybe he's not there quite yet, but I think his trajectory, in my personal opinion, he's there. He officially crossed icon, that line of being an icon for me personally. But in the grand scheme of things, maybe he's not. But Art the Clown, to me, he's gonna round out what if the first 6, 100%. What's the next one? Art the Clown. And to me, that is 100% fair. What the Terrifier franchise has done, especially since Terrifier 2, like the virality and how like the the popularity that Art the Clown and the franchise of Terrifier, how fast they exploded in the last 7 years is insane. I drug Sean and my buddy Brandon to the opening night of Terrifier 2. It was supposed to be in theaters for, again, very limited amount of time. I had been screaming about this sequel for what feels like forever. It was us 3, and I think 2, maybe 3 other people in the theater. So, at that time, it still just wasn't a massive thing, and then the showing got over, and I've talked about it several times, of that photo of the guy in the theater sitting on the bench with the EMTs, and his head is, like, between his legs. That tweet of he, like, threw up or passed out or whatever, that tweet exploded, and Terrifier 2 ended up being in theaters for way longer than it was supposed to. It made millions of dollars, and from there, it's just man, obviously, Terrifier 3, Art the Clown crossed over into Call of Duty. He's in Fortnite. The Terrifier just had a house at Halloween Horror Nights, the Spirit Halloween merch, just everything. In my opinion, he has crossed that line, but I know that that is debatable for a lot of people, and that's totally fine. But in the line of and people would say like, "Well, he's just a clown." For sure, there are so many clown slashers, and for sure, right? He's just a new clown slasher. I don't necessarily look at Pennywise as a slasher. That's another one. When I talk about like slashers, like, oh, Pennywise. I don't look at Pennywise as a slasher. Again, could be wrong, but had to bring him up because that's another popular clown horror. Captain Spaulding, um, Friendo from Clown in a Cornfield, Stitches, if you've seen that, which is Stitches isn't my normal cup of tea. It's very horror comedy, but dude, there's a couple of kills in that movie that crack me. They're so cool. Gertie from 100 Tears. There's like 2000s slasher clown Killjoy. I'm sure I'm missing a few of these clowns, but to me, Art the Clown, out of all these, he just he's just cooler. I think his and that has a lot to do with David Howard Thornton. Let's just put that on the table right now. I think David Howard Thornton's performance with Art the Clown makes the character. I think Michael Giannelli, who is the original Art the Clown, I thought he was great. But what David Howard Thornton brings to that character, and yes, of course, the over-the-top, brutal fucking kills help make not only him as a slasher, him as a character, a killer, it makes it unforgettable, right? But I think David Howard Thornton's performance, the bit of comedy and like the characterization that he brings to Art the Clown, I think Art the Clown is just super hard to forget for multiple reasons. But I think he has a pretty unique design too. Like the whole like witch nose aspect and the dirty teeth, and I mean it's a very simple clown design. But again, I just think that he's just reached this level of like people look at him and say, yeah, that's that, even if they don't know his name. Like, oh, people call him people call him Terrifier all the time. Just like people call Ghostface Scream, which is fucking hilarious to me. But I think in the conversation of coolest slashers, I think Art the Clown 100%. I mean, on my list, yes, but I think if you were to make a top 10 list or whatever, I think he very much deserves to be in that conversation, if not just a permanent spot in the top 10 for me. Moving on, I think Candyman should be in the conversation. Just the design of Candyman, his trench coat, the bees, his hook, I think is super cool. And what Tony Todd does with the character, again, it goes back to like Freddy and Chucky. I could listen to Candyman talk for hours. Just that deep, fucking, like, almost like sultry voice. I could listen. Whenever he speaks, I'm like, oh my God. Like, that sounds very, very weird to me to say, but like, I could listen to Candyman speak for hours. I think the design of Candyman really stands out. Yes, there's another killer on this list that I will bring up, but obviously came out after Candyman. So plus his hook is his actual, like, his hand got chopped off and it's fucking like his hand is a hook. The next one, the fisherman from I Know What You Did Last Summer, he holds a hook. But growing up, I had seen Halloween, I had seen Friday the 13th, but I hadn't really gotten into like watching Nightmare on Elm Street or the original Texas Chainsaw yet or whatever. But like I saw Halloween, Friday the 13th, I saw Scream, and then I saw I Know What You Did Last Summer. And I think the fisherman for me was just super cool because like you never saw his face. He wore that slick fisherman jacket. He held the hook, and just how he was framed, all that, super cool. And I think that even to this day, I think the fisherman would probably make a lot of people's list. Maybe not top 10. He wouldn't necessarily make my personal top 10 of coolest slashers, but I think he deserves to be at least talked about. Now, I could be 100% wrong, and I've said this so many times this episode. I sectioned off my list of like what I think the slashers that most everybody would bring up when I asked who's the coolest slasher. And most of the slashers that I just named were the majority of the answers. Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees, Freddy Krueger, Leatherface, Chucky, Ghostface, Art the Clown. This next set of slashers, You've probably seen their films, you probably know who they are for sure, but I think they need more love, and specifically, there are a few that I will hone in on, 'cause not some of these aren't quite as, like, underrated, like, they are more well known that I think would make top 10 lists, but I also wanna talk about these, and I didn't set this up very well in terms of, like, so bear with me, but I think Sam from Trick or Treat, I think technically you can throw him on a slasher list. I think he's got such a unique weapon with the pumpkin sucker. I think he is the cutest little fucker, and I think Sam deserves to be talked about in a coolest slasher conversation. And I will go on record right now. I know they're working on it, and I hope it's good. But I do not think that we need a Trick or Treat 2. I really do not. I think what that movie has done on its own, because it was originally supposed to hit theaters, and then I don't think that it ever really did. It went straight to DVD. I remember going to Best Buy and buying it, and I was like, "I love this fucking movie." And I think its popularity that it's done grassroots, like, the community, the horror community lifted up Trick or Treat and Sam and said, like, "We love this." Sam has gotten so many, like, Spirit Halloween collectibles, and he was running around at Halloween Horror Nights at Universal, and I think that's just the pure love of slashers and this character. Like, that is just like pure grassroots, because I don't think it ever got the advertising or the push that it really deserved. I love that movie so much. It's in my letterbox top 4. I love it. And I think Sam is so fucking cool. Definitely deserves to be in this conversation. Now, I necessarily didn't like this movie as much as other people, but one person on my IG thing said Heart Eyes. Heart Eyes, I do think, has an incredible mask. I love the design for Heart Eyes. I want to expand my slasher mask collection at some point, have just like a massive shelf and have them all. Um, I would love a Heart Eyes mask, 100%. I think the mask is super cool, especially in the movie when it goes like inside the mask, and like you can see like it's red and how the heart eyes glow red in the dark. Super fucking sick. I need to rewatch the movie, because I had a hard time with like the hokey vibes. I think it was definitely done on purpose, but I just didn't expect the whole like rom-com, and like to lean so much into like the cheesy hokiness of those, so that the tone really threw me off, and that's probably a personal thing. I went into it being like, okay, this is gonna be like a serious movie. So some of that stuff just didn't really work for me personally, but it's got some great kills. I need to rewatch it, but Heart Eyes, I think, is um a very cool slasher killer design. Love the mask. Speaking of in that realm, John Carver got mentioned. John Carver from Thanksgiving. I loved the design of John Carver. I thought it was super funny how um it it really did look like just one of those basic, like those like plastic masks that would like break, and they were sharp as hell. They would like poke your chin and like cheeks and shit. It looked like just a vintage pilgrim. I don't know really what else you would necessarily do with the pilgrim slasher, but I think they killed John Carver's character design. I again wasn't a massive fan of the movie, and I think there are some great kills. I wasn't necessarily into, like, most of the characters, and I think the quote unquote "twist," I called that shit literally the first scene. So there was no really shock or surprise to me. So I was just like, yeah, okay. But Hard Eyes and Thanksgiving are two movies that I definitely need to watch a second time. But yeah, Hard Eyes and John Carver got brought up at least once in my IG question. Um, I would say in that realm, The Collector. I have The Collector tattooed. Like, I love The Collector so much, and I think The Collector definitely doesn't get the love that he deserves. I'm always so shocked and surprised how many people have not seen those two films, especially if you, like, really love slashers and really love horror. I feel like The Collector and The Collection are, like, they shouldn't, in my opinion, they shouldn't be considered, like, hidden gems. So I don't think, like, they're necessarily hidden. Um, both the films have been on Tubi for years, but I'm so shocked how many people, when I bring it up, they go, "Oh, I've never even heard of this. What? Okay." I'm so happy that I get to introduce The Collector to you because holy shit, I remember renting The Collector from the Red Box when those were a thing. You remember Red Box? Crazy. I was staying at my grandma's house, and I remember going to a Redbox, seeing it rented. I rented that and the remake of Amityville Horror with Ryan Reynolds. I remember renting those two, and my grandma has a basement that we would stay in, and popping that shit in, and I was like, "Holy fuck." Like, this is like I love home invasion. At the time, I loved Saw. I still loved Saw. I don't wanna say at the time. It just felt like this brutal mix of, like, home invasion slasher Saw, which, by the way, because I brought up Saw, people say Jigsaw is a slasher as well, and I don't agree with that. Again, could be wrong, but, like, yes, he puts, like, Jigsaw technically doesn't kill. I know that's a technicality. He puts people in those situations, but technically, I guess he's responsible, but, like, I don't think Jigsaw meets the requirements to be a slasher, and I see Jigsaw on top 10 slasher all the time, and maybe again, it could be a personal thing, but I don't think Jigsaw should be on a list of slashers. Anyway, The Collector, I don't think it's a hidden gem. I don't even think it's underrated. I'm just shocked how many people haven't seen it. And I love the news that The Collected, the third one, finally is being worked on. They went through like ownership for rights or something because they had started to film it during COVID and like they had to shut down or just some weird legal mumbo jumbo shit. But I think they finally got that figured out and The Collected is officially now moving forward. Hell yeah. I cannot wait for that shit. And then one other one okay, no, actually two more slashers that I think would probably make somebody's, like, extended, maybe, like, top 15 list or whatever. Maybe. I don't know. This is so off the fucking cuff. I did not organize this in the I don't know. I don't have, like, official names or nothing, man. I'm just looking at a fucking list. I'm not a professional. Holy shit. Two more that I think I guess I could go 3. Cropsy from The Burning. I think if you are a massive slasher fan, I think The Burning's probably on your I guess I don't wanna say, like, top slasher list, but I hear about The Burning from people that just love slashers all the time. I think Cropsy, iconic with the fucking garden shears, man, iconic. I love the poster and like that last look that you get at Cropsy. He's all burned and shit. Like, dude, probably not making like top 10, top 15 or something, but had to give a shout out to Cropsy. I would say the babyface killer from Happy Death Day would make somebody's list. I know he's not incredibly. I think he's unique in the way of like the design of the actual babyface mask. I think is fucking hilarious. I know he's just like the killer is just like jeans, fucking zip up hoodie and a mask, but like I love that. And I think the dichotomy of like the baby face mask and like what I think he's super fucking cool. And I've been reading things about possibly a Happy Death Day 3. I don't know. We'll see. But had to give the babyface killer a mention. And then I would say Victor Crowley. I bring up Victor Crowley quite a bit. Victor Crowley from the Hatchet franchise, which I need to rewatch. Dark Sky Films sent me this the Hatchet collection on Steelbook. I need to rewatch it. I know the first Hatchet pretty well, and then the second one they recast the main girl with Danielle Harris. I think it was number 2. Brutal kills, man. I think that first time you see Victor Crowley in Hatchet, when the old couple is walking up to the house and the lightning strikes and Victor comes out, he's like, does his like little like scream yell thing, and he rips that old lady's jaw, and dude, brutal. I think some of the kills in Hatchet are just so good. I know Victor Crowley's not the most like attractive person to look at, but I know that Kane Hodder is very much up there as people's like favorite Jason Voorhees. We can go on that conversation. We can have a different conversation about that in another episode, because I do agree that like when I think of Jason, I do think of Kane Hodder, but like, man, his films are just like the films that he played Jason in are just not good, man. He might have played Jason, but anyway, I think I honestly prefer him as Victor Crowley. And that might be a hot take. I don't know. Is that a hot take? Interesting. Now, before I get yelled at, these next few, I think, really are underrated. These next few, I really want to highlight as, like, if you haven't seen these killers' movies, I urge you to watch them. Chrome Skull from Laid to Rest. Now, I will say, the first Laid to Rest, I think it's a rough watch. It's very independent vibes, low budget. The acting is not great. For me, the first Laid to Rest, there are sections of the movie that are very hard to get through. But when I tell you, as a slasher fan, as a gore hound, a fan of just watching a killer kill some people with some creative, brutal kills, Laid to Rest, if you have not seen it, god damn, the kills go hard. They really, really go hard. And what I love about Chrome Skull, yes, his mask is like a skull, it's like chromey, but he has this camera that sits on his shoulder. I think that's what really makes him stand out from everybody on this list, is he's like recording this shit as he's doing it. And it just makes for a cool design, a cool visual. And man, he's just brutal. Laid to Rest 2, I think it's called Chrome Skull, Laid to Rest 2. That film picks up right where the first one leaves off. So yes, I do, whether it's a rough watch or not, you do have to watch the first one, because number 2 picks up literally exactly where the first one leaves you. The second one, in my opinion, is a better overall watch, and again, the kills. Unfortunately, we only got 2 films because I want to say, hold on, again, I don't want to say this wrong. Yes. The director of Laid to Rest, Robert Green Hall, he passed away in 2021. So as far as I know, that there was gonna be a Laid to Rest 3. Yes, a Laid to Rest Exhumed was the intended third installment in the Laid to Rest slasher franchise. It was set for 2017. The project faced significant delays, and then Robert Hall tragically passed away in 2021. Yeah, super sad. Super sad. With that said, though, if you haven't seen Laid to Rest or Chrome Skull Laid to Rest 2, and you love creative kills, you love practical effects and shit, you must watch. Absolute must watch. I believe Laid to Rest is on Tubi. Yes, Laid to Rest is on Tubi, and Laid to Rest 2 is on Tubi, Pluto TV, the Roku channel, Plex, and Philo. The more you know. Of course, that's in the US. If you're listening outside of the US, it might not be on any of those for you. I rewatched this movie last night. Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon. I think Leslie Vernon does not get talked about in the conversation of slashers like he should. I think the movie itself deserves a lot more love. It's not my typical cup of tea. I normally don't do the whole like satirical horror comedy vibe, but I thought, as a massive fan of slashers, especially on my rewatch, literally watched it last night, I just love how they explain, quote unquote, explain a lot of the slasher tropes the way that they do. Oh, yeah, I'll just nail these windows shut. Shouldn't they just like jump through them? Yeah, you would think so, but that doesn't happen. They jump through windows at like second floors. But then I just like halfway cut the tree branches so they fall. Just like how they approached like a quote unquote explanation for all these like slasher things, like how like the killer had to spend all this time setting this up. It's so good. And I think the actual, hold on, sip of coffee. And I think the design of Leslie Vernon is super cool too. Like, just the blue, I don't even, it's like a skull face mask looking thing. Leslie Vernon, not only as a slasher, but the movie itself, I don't think gets near enough love when it comes to the conversation of slashers. So if you have not seen Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon, and you love like mockumentary found footage type of things, it's like this documentary crew is literally following Leslie Vernon, a killer, as he's planning his reappearance. And this documentary crew is following him every step of the way, and it's just so fucking good. The final act, it leaves that whole documentary thing and it becomes like an actual film. So I guess I could see how people don't necessarily like the back and forth, but I thought it was great. So, not to be confused with the babyface killer from Happy Death Day, but I'm talking the babyface killer from The Hills Run Red. Again, such an underrated, underseen, not talked about slasher. When I bring this movie up, a lot of people don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, which is fine. That's what this channel is for. But the babyface killer in The Hills Run Red, first off, incredible design. Like, honestly, if I was just ranking slashers based on their design alone, babyface killer from Hills Run Red might be in my top 5. I think he's so fucking cool. But if you know nothing about The Hills Run Red, let me tell you, it's about this group of film makers. Well, are they filmmakers? I don't remember if they're filmmakers, but they're definitely fans. They are fans of the horror genre. A group of young horror fans go searching for a film that mysteriously vanished years ago, but instead find that the demented killer from the movie is real, and he's thrilled to meet fans who will die gruesomely for his art. So, in the movie The Hills Run Red, there is a famous and infamous movie called The Hills Run Red, and you can't find it and all this kind of shit, and I just read the whole synopsis, so not to, like, repeat it, but this is one that just a super cool slasher, some great fucking kills. Again, I believe it's all practical. I haven't seen it in a long time. I should rewatch it, but fuck, man, just I don't think this movie or the killer gets talked about like it should. So massive shout out to the babyface killer. I don't even know if that's necessarily what its name is. I think it is. I'm pretty sure. But don't confuse it with Happy Death Day. I think between the two babyface killers, the Hills Run Red design, leaps and bounds better for sure. And then one last one. I don't remember. We talked about the eyeball killer, right? From Dead by Dawn. A bunch of eyes. Yes, we started the whole thing that way. That's what sparked this entire conversation. God damn, this podcast is gonna be a mess, man. I'm so sorry. Uh, this one I don't necessarily think is like a super cool killer by any means, but I do love the design. And again, I wanted to bring it some love because I don't think the trilogy gets talked about a whole hell of a lot. So I thought this was a cool opportunity to like bring it up. It's called Cold Prey. And I do not know off the top of my head what the actual killer is called, but it's set in the Norwegian like mountains, and he just has a cool look. He has this like winter ski mask and this coat, and it's just like gray, and he's got these goggles that he wears because like it snows, and the ski mask is like cut and frayed to go over the goggles, and all this like fur coat, and it's really cool, especially in the snow. So I thought that this would be a good opportunity to bring up this trilogy. If you don't know anything about Cold Prey is a Norwegian slasher trilogy. There's 1, 2, and 3. And the synopsis is when one of them breaks a leg, 5 friends snowboarding in the Norwegian mountains take shelter in an abandoned ski lodge and soon realize they're not alone. Cold Prey, the first one, it does take a lot of time to get to like the killing, but I think it's definitely worth a watch if you don't want like a slower burn slasher film. I haven't seen I rewatched 1 and 2 the end of last year, I could not find the third one, so I haven't seen the third one in quite a while. But the second one is a lot more exciting than the first one. But they're if you love slasher films and you haven't seen the Cold Prey trilogy, they're definitely worth a watch. So yeah, I know that this was a very chaotic, disorganized episode. I hope in the edit this somewhat makes sense and this was at least listenable. I would love for you guys to tell me in the comments, like, when it comes to coolest slashers, who would be your top 5, maybe top 10? To go through this list again: Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees, Freddy Krueger, Leatherface, Chucky, Ghostface, Art the Clown, Candyman, the Fisherman from I Know What You Did Last Summer, the Collector, Sam from Trick or Treat, Cropsy from The Burning, Hard Eyes, John Carver, Victor Crowley, Chrome Skull, Babyface Killer, Hills Run Red, and Happy Death Day, Leslie Vernon, the Cold Prey Killer, and the eyeball, what I am deeming the eyeball killer from a new movie called Dead by Dawn. The eyeball killer, out of all these motherfuckers that I just listed, I think the eyeball killer would probably be in my top 5 for, like, design wise. Dude, he's so, if you haven't seen, just go look up Dead by Dawn killer or Dead by Dawn movie 2026, and you will see a picture. It is so fucking cool. But I would love to know your guys' top 5. Not, I don't want to say like it's gonna be hard, but not your favorite, not who has the best franchise or best movies, but like, who do you think, like, design wise, character wise, would be your coolest slashers off the top of this list? For me personally, I would probably legitimately put in, ooh, in what order? Do I do order? I don't think I can do order, but I would, dude, ooh, I'm gonna get some shit for this. I would say the Collector, Sam, the Babyface Killer, the Eyeball Killer, that's 4. And just to say, and just to, ooh, do I save face and pick Freddy? I think Freddy has to be there. Yeah, I think that would be my top 5. I'm gonna get yelled at for not including Michael or Jason or whatever, but, like, as of this moment right now, the Eyeball Killer, Babyface Killer from Hills Run Red, Sam the Collector, and Freddy, I think if you put those I think that is just a super sick looking set of slashers, and that's what I'm talking about. I'm not saying the Eyeball Killer or Babyface or whatever. I'm not saying that their movies are better, more iconic, nothing. But just, like, just from a straight, like, I'm looking at these people, I'm picking my top. Yeah. Fuck yeah, dude. At least give me your top 5. If you want, like, extra credit, I'll take top 10. I'll always take a great top 10. But I would love to hear your top 5. Also, if there's not a slasher that I brought up in this episode that you would include on, like, just a great design, a cool looking slasher that I did not bring up, please bring that to my attention. I want to know. Because I made this list pretty quick. So it's very much did not do a ton of extra research. I just kind of, like, got to get this just off the top of my fucking head. So anyways, so sorry for the chaotic episode. I hope this was fun. Let me know if you want more of this style, like, or like, we usually just do, like, movie after movie, like, just, like, talking about movies, but this is more like just talking about the characters. I want to do, like, probably do eventually, like ranking Halloween and Friday the 13th and, stuff. But I thought this was a kind of a cool little topic of just not getting into, like, rankings or who's my favorite or whatever, but, like, just a cool design for a slasher. So any other ideas, topics like this, let me know. I want to do more of this style of thing, but maybe a little bit more like planned and organized. I think you guys would probably appreciate that, so it's not so chaotic. But I hope you guys have a great weekend. Thank you again for always listening and supporting the podcast. If you haven't yet given me a 5-star review on whatever platform you listen to me on, I would greatly appreciate that. That helps me get the podcast out to more people through the algorithm, all that great stuff that no one likes to work against, but that's just the way it is. If you haven't yet, follow me on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. I post on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook pretty much every fucking day, if not multiple times. So if you love daily horror content, you haven't followed me on any of those channels, please do that. And I'm gonna be annoying and bring it up one more time. I think it's pretty fucking cool that I'm gonna be in Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 3. I really do. Insane. But thank you guys for listening. I appreciate you. I love you. And remember, watch something spooky this week.